All right, for more on this, we are joined by Dr. Gilbert Doctorow, International Affairs Analyst, author and historian. He's joining us from Brussels. Dr. Doctorow, always a pleasure speaking with you. Now, Zelensky said he'll hold peace talks with Russia if Moscow pulls out of all Ukrainian territory. In your understanding, what do you make of this statement? Is there any need of peace talks if Moscow is out?
It's a surreal proposal. Yeah, I don't defies the laws of gravity. Normal conditions, the losing side in a war does not demand that the winning side of the war capitulate, and that is precisely what Mr. Zelensky has done in a very peculiar way, and I'd say in a hopeless way. How we appraise this two-day meeting really depends on which side you're standing on. From the Ukrainian side, I think there are unequivocal aspects of the conclusion which look like a failure. That is to say, what was signed by the 80 countries represented was approving only 3 of the 10 points in Mr. Zelensky's peace proposal. It goes back many months. So he only got a fraction of the support from those who signed. And those who signed represented well less than half of the world's population, far less. You have mentioned India's refusal to sign. There are other major powers like Saudi Arabia, Brazil, who were represented at the meeting, didn't sign. China didn't come. The United Nations Secretary General, Guterres, didn't come. Now, that is one way of looking at it, as a failed initiative from Mr. Zelensky and also from Jake Sullivan, because the Americans were behind this initiative, and Mr. Sullivan in particular were organizers of the event. From the other side, from the Russian side, the outcome of this meeting was a victory, and it wasn't a victory that came cheaply. The American diplomatic community was very busy in the weeks running up to this conference, traveling the world and trying to bring in all possible countries to their side. The Russians were doing the same thing. The Russian diplomatic service was extremely active in the weeks before this to ensure that this would not deliver a verdict on Russia that would be unacceptable and make future negotiations more difficult. And the day before the meeting opened, Mr. Putin delivered what is called a diplomatic torpedo in his peace plan.
Dr. Doctorow, I also wanted to get your thoughts on this. What good is a peace summit when both parties who need to arrive at that peace are not present? What's Ukraine trying to achieve with a summit like this when Russia is not even invited?
Well, the conduct of the Zelensky government for a long time, both on the battlefield and in diplomatic events such as took place over the weekend, could be characterized as public relations, not actual management of issues. The way that the counteroffensive was waged in a hopeless way, serving only public relations objectives, not true military objectives, that is carried over into the event that we saw this weekend. The likelihood of anything resembling a peace agreement coming out of a meeting in which the other side is not present and was not invited tells you that this was not a pragmatic event. It was a public relations effort to gather support for a gentleman who is now the illegitimate tyrant of Ukraine. Mr. Zelensky's authority ended on the 20th of the last month.
All right, Dr. Doctorow. All right, Dr. Doctorow, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all your insights. Always a pleasure getting your insights on matters pertaining to Russia and Ukraine. There will be much to discuss in times to come. Let's see how this one unfolds. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks for the invitation.